Hello, Reddit. I hope this post can't be traced back to me through my IP address, because if it can, my life will be over within hours. But I can't keep this buried inside me anymore. Every wall in the house I'm living in feels like it's closing in on me, and every glance in the mirror makes me sick. This is my confession, and maybe my last attempt to figure out whether I even deserve to walk this earth and breathe the same air as everyone else. My name is Elric. I grew up behind 16-foot security walls surrounding luxurious private estates, under the constant watch of surveillance cameras and armed guards. My father, the CEO of the multinational conglomerate Valorian Holdings, saw the entire world as divided into only two categories: assets that generated profit and garbage that needed to be disposed of. I was the garbage, the younger, illegitimate son, a living reminder of his mistake. My older brother, Garrick, was born to be the perfect heir. He received the finest boarding schools, billion-dollar trust funds, tailored designer suits, and, most importantly, our father's pride. I got beatings behind the locked doors of his office. I got constant surveillance. I got psychological torture. My father raised me like an obedient, terrified dog, whose only purpose was to remain loyal to his business empire. The slightest hint of independence meant being locked in a freezing basement without food or light for days. Whenever I walked past the security guards with bruises covering my face, they simply looked away. To them, I didn't exist. When I was 17, after another brutal fight with my father, he shattered 2 of my ribs with the tip of his dress shoe because I refused to sign fraudulent financial documents. That was the moment I understood something terrifying. If I didn't run right then and there, they would bury me in the backyard and tell the press I'd gone off to study at Oxford. That rainy autumn night, barely able to breathe through the pain in my chest, I bribed one of the younger chauffeurs, climbed into a car, and drove into the darkness. I had no destination, no plan. I pushed the car as hard as it could go until the fuel warning light flashed on the dashboard. Somewhere near the state border, in the middle of a forgotten rural town, I abandoned the vehicle on the roadside and stumbled into the rain-soaked forest, hiding from every pair of approaching headlights. The pain in my ribs became unbearable. Fever blurred my thoughts. Eventually, I crawled onto the cracked asphalt outside an old gas station and collapsed face first into a puddle beneath the freezing rain, bleeding out. I was certain that was the end. But death decided to wait. She found me, Rhea. Her father was an honest doctor who owned a small private clinic in that forgotten town. They discovered a filthy, half-dead teenager lying in the rain, and instead of calling the police, which my father completely controlled, they carried me into their home. Rhea. She was everything my world had never been. Kind, gentle, pure. She was 16. She spent hours sitting beside my bed, changing my bandages, bringing me hot broth, and talking about ordinary things. Her favorite books, the rain tapping against the windows, her dream of becoming a doctor just like her father. She was the first person in my life who looked at me not as a problem, not as a tool, but as a human being. Her smile melted the ice that had been building inside me for years. For the first time, I believed a life without fear might actually exist. I stayed with them for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of absolute peace, 2 weeks of happiness I had never known before. I started believing I'd escaped for good. But fate handed me a bill so horrifying, I could never repay it. My father's security division was more efficient than most intelligence agencies. I made one fatal mistake. I turned on my old phone for less than a minute just to look at some photographs. That single minute was enough. The hired enforcers from Valorian Holdings stormed Rhea's house in the middle of the night, smashing through the front door. There was shouting, furniture crashing, chaos. Rhea's father reacted instantly. He shoved me into a concealed medical compartment hidden behind a bookshelf in his office and sealed the panel shut. Through a narrow crack between the wooden boards, I saw everything. 3 men dressed in expensive black suits entered the room, carrying pistols fitted with suppressors. They threw Ria's father onto the floor. My father's chief of security, a man whose eyes were as cold as a reptile's, looked down at him and calmly asked, "Where's the boy?" Ria's father was already bleeding after being struck with a rifle butt. He simply stared back and stayed silent. He was protecting me. A complete stranger, a runaway kid he'd known for only 14 days. Then the man in the suit didn't even blink. He squeezed the trigger. A dull pop. Ria's father collapsed onto his back. Her mother ran into the room screaming. A second muffled shot cut her life short before she could finish a single sentence. I couldn't move. I bit my own fingers until they bled just to stop myself from screaming. I held my breath as blood spread across the floor beneath the people who had pulled me back from death. They didn't kill Ria. Instead, the chief of security grabbed her by the hair, yanked her to her feet, and ordered his men to tie her up. "We're taking her with us. If the kid's still around, she'll make an excellent leash." They shoved her, crying, shaking, completely broken, into a black armored SUV and disappeared into the night. I remained hidden inside that compartment for another 3 hours, too terrified to move, too terrified to breathe, surrounded by the bodies of the people who had saved my life. One act of kindness had turned Ria's life into ashes. It destroyed her entire world, and it carved a bloody scar into my soul that has never healed. I survived, but the man who walked out of that house that night lost the right to call himself human. 7 long years passed, 7 years spent in complete oblivion. That horrific night, I crawled out of the hidden compartment just as dawn began to break. I never called the police. I knew it would be pointless. I simply ran. I disappeared completely. I changed my name, moved to the opposite side of the continent, worked as a dock laborer, a port security guard, and even got involved with underground fight clubs that operated in the gray areas of the law. I learned to fight as if every match were my last. My body collected new scars. My heart turned to stone. Those brutal years hardened me into someone I believed could never again be broken or intimidated. I thought I'd buried my past forever. But fate is the cruelest director with the darkest sense of humor. 2 months ago, my father, the old tyrant, died unexpectedly from a stroke. In the end, even his heart couldn't survive the hatred it carried. My older brother, Garrick, officially inherited control of Valorian Holdings. The very first thing he did was use every resource the corporation possessed to find me. Why? Because he needed a legitimate family alliance. According to our father's will, full access to several frozen overseas accounts required the signatures of both sons. He didn't need a brother. He needed my signature. They tracked me through forged documents, cornered me, and gave me a choice. Either I returned to the family as the new junior vice president and signed the paperwork, or I'd be charged with murdering the very doctors who had saved me 7 years earlier. They had manufactured every piece of evidence. Everything pointed to me. I had no choice. I came back. I put on another one of those cursed designer suits that felt more like a straitjacket than clothing. I walked back into the same skyscraper, convinced I was prepared for every dirty game my brother had planned. I thought I'd already seen the worst hell this world had to offer. I couldn't have been more wrong. It happened during an exclusive charity gala celebrating Garrick's appointment as the company's new chairman. Spotlights flooded the ballroom. Politicians, bankers, journalists, everyone important was there. Garrick approached me carrying a glass of whiskey, wearing the same arrogant, victorious smile I'd hated since childhood. "Elric, my boy," he announced loudly, patting my shoulder while the cameras flashed. "It's time you came back to the family properly. I'd like you to meet my future fiancée. Tonight we're announcing our engagement. Without her, this company would never have become what it is today." The doors to the VIP section opened. A woman entered the ballroom, accompanied by 2 security guards. She wore a breathtaking black silk gown that perfectly framed her figure. Her hair was flawlessly styled. Every movement was graceful, elegant, almost regal. But her face? Her face looked as though it had been carved from cold, lifeless marble. There wasn't a trace of emotion on it. It was Rhea. My heart didn't simply stop. It felt as though it had fallen into an endless abyss. My vision darkened. The air was knocked from my lungs as if someone had driven a steel bar into my chest. Those same eyes that had once looked at me with limitless kindness in that tiny countryside bedroom now held only icy calm and a pain so deep it looked impossible to heal. She had survived my family's captivity. She had endured their hell. They had spent years breaking her mind. And now she stood before everyone as a trophy, as the future wife of the man whose father had ordered the destruction of her entire world. When Garrick pulled her closer and wrapped his possessive hand around her waist, I could barely breathe. The ache from my long-healed ribs exploded back to life like a phantom wound. She looked directly at me. There was no surprise, no shock. She already knew I'd returned. She recognized me instantly, despite the older face and broader shoulders. Yet, she didn't accuse me. She didn't scream. She simply inclined her head ever so slightly, and the corners of her lips formed a cold, almost mechanical smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you, little brother." Her voice was so quiet, so perfectly steady, that chills raced down my spine. I still hear those words every single night. They sound like a death sentence. We were trapped inside a prison built from reinforced concrete and corporate power. She was my older brother's official fiancée, a hostage bound by contracts and influence. I was the living witness to her tragedy, the reason her life had been shattered. The innocent love that had barely begun to bloom between two frightened teenagers during that rainy night years ago had become something forbidden, something unspeakable, a secret neither of us could ever acknowledge. Every day we walked through the same glass corridors, sat across from each other at business dinners, locked eyes beneath the flashes of cameras. Yet an invisible wall stood between us, a wall built from the bodies of her parents and from my cowardly escape. And the most terrifying part of it all was that neither of us said a single word. 3 weeks had passed since my return, 3 weeks of an unbearable performance called The Perfect Family. In public, we all played our assigned roles. Garrick was the confident alpha leader, Rhea was his elegant, flawless companion, and I was the prodigal son who had finally returned to the family business. But every time I watched my brother wrap an arm around her shoulders or kiss her cheek in front of reporters, it felt like someone was driving a knife straight through my chest. I could see it. Beneath that marble calm expression, Rhea was already dead inside. My brother had turned her into the perfect ornament for corporate galas by breaking every last piece of her will. Then one night, everything changed. Garrick flew to Tokyo for emergency negotiations. For the first time, the locks on our corporate prison loosened. It was nearly midnight. Unable to breathe inside my lavish suite, I wandered up to the rooftop terrace, desperate for fresh air. She was already there. Rhea stood at the edge of the glass railing, staring into the endless lights of the city below. She wore a light silk robe, and the night wind tossed strands of her hair across her face. As I stepped closer, moonlight fell across her bare arms. Without the makeup, without the long sleeves of her evening gowns, I finally saw what Garrick had spent years hiding from every camera. Thin, pale scars circled both of her wrists, marks left by plastic restraints, marks from old attempts to escape. My throat tightened. 7 years of rage and guilt detonated inside me. "Why are you still here, Rhea?" Even I could hear my voice shaking. "Why did you agree to marry him? Why do you let Garrick destroy you every single day?" She didn't flinch. Slowly, she turned toward me, the lights of the skyscrapers reflected in her eyes. She smelled of expensive perfume, musk, mixed with the bitter scent of prescription sedatives. She took a single step closer but stopped, as though an invisible line separated us. one that neither of us was allowed to cross. Did I ever have a choice, Elric? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Yet every word struck harder than any punch I'd ever taken in an underground fight. Your father stole my home and executed my future right in front of me. Your brother stole my freedom. He locked me away in a private institution where therapists spent years teaching me how to behave. And your escape, your cowardly escape, cost me everything I had. She looked around at the luxurious penthouse surrounding us. I'm not here because I love the diamonds or this place. I'm here because this is my prison and my execution platform. Your brother owns every step I take. If I try to leave, I'll disappear just like my parents did. Every sentence cut straight through me. I wanted to reach for her, to pull her into my arms, to fall to my knees and beg for forgiveness. I wanted to scream that I wasn't that terrified 17-year-old anymore. I was stronger now. I had money, connections in the criminal underworld. I'd learned how to fight, how to kill, how to protect people. I wanted to tell her we could run, right now, into the night, just like we should have 7 years ago. But then I looked into her glassy eyes, and I understood. Her heart had already been burned to ashes. The memory of that blood-soaked office haunted her every waking moment. When she looked at me, she didn't see the boy she'd once cared about. She didn't see her first love. She saw the trigger, the reason her life had collapsed. She blamed me for everything. And God, she had every right to. Do you know what's truly terrifying, Elric? She stepped even closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath, yet her eyes remained lifeless. I hate the rainy day I found you at that gas station. I hate myself for not walking away. But at the same time, her voice almost broke. I look at you now, and I can't make myself hate you. That's my curse, my own private cross to carry. We're both already dead. We're just walking around in expensive suits. Then she turned around, without another word, and walked away, leaving me alone beneath the night sky. We had become prisoners of the past, the love that had never been given the chance to bloom, the betrayal my very existence had inflicted, the unbearable loss, and the tiny, deeply buried hope neither of us dared acknowledge. They had twisted together into a knot so tight, so soaked in blood, that it seemed impossible to cut it apart without destroying us both. And neither of us knew how to take the next step, without becoming the other's final tragedy. But even a life frozen in pain couldn't last forever. An empire built on bones is destined to collapse sooner or later. My older brother was a ruthless businessman, but he made one fatal mistake. He became too confident. In his attempt to expand Valorian holdings, Garrick struck a deal with a shadow syndicate that controlled illegal weapons trafficking. Later, believing his political connections and billions of dollars made him untouchable, he tried to double-cross them. He was wrong. To the people he'd betrayed, money meant nothing. They wanted blood. They came to erase the Valorian family from existence. It happened late on a Friday night. All of us were on the 80th floor of the company's headquarters, where Garrick was hosting a private executive meeting. Without warning, every light in the skyscraper went out. A second later, a deafening explosion shook the entire building. They had destroyed the server rooms and security systems on the lower floors. Less than a minute later, the armored doors protecting our floor exploded inward. Mercenaries dressed in black tactical gear stormed inside. Hell began. I was on the opposite side of the room when I finally saw what my powerful older brother was truly made of. The moment the first gunshots echoed through the building, every trace of his confidence disappeared. His personal security team grabbed him and dragged him toward a concealed elevator leading directly to the rooftop, where his private helicopter was waiting. Rhea stood only a few yards away. One of the bodyguards shouted, "Boss, do we take the girl?" Garrick looked at her, then at the heavily armed men advancing through the smoke, his face twisted with raw animal terror. "No, Leave her. She'll buy us time." He shoved her aside without hesitation, jumped into the armored elevator capsule, and slammed the emergency button. The doors closed. He abandoned his own fiancée as a human shield. Something inside me broke. Every corporate rule, every ounce of self-hatred I'd carried for 7 years. Everything disappeared. Only instinct remained. Every lesson I'd learned surviving underground fight clubs, every scar, every desperate night, came rushing back all at once. I forgot about orders, forgot about stock prices, forgot about my own life. There was only one thought pounding through my head. I'm not going to let her die because of my family. Again. I knocked the rifle out of one mercenary's hands with my bare fists, shattered his jaw, and used an overturned oak conference table as cover while forcing my way toward the VIP offices. The air was thick with smoke and gunpowder. The fire suppression system drenched everything in freezing water. Blood streamed down my arm where shattered glass had sliced through my skin. I didn't even feel it. I found her inside Garrick's corner office. The doors had already been blasted open. $1 million contracts floated through the air like filthy confetti, mixing with ash and water. She wasn't hiding beneath a desk. She wasn't crying. Rhea stood beside the shattered floor-to-ceiling window, staring at the burning offices below. There was no fear in her face. She watched the mercenaries advancing down the hallway as though they weren't executioners, but liberators. She was waiting for death, as if it were the only escape left. "Rhea!" I screamed until my voice cracked as I fought my way toward her. "Get down! Come to me!" I grabbed her ice-cold hand and tried to pull her toward the maintenance stairwell that only I knew about. She pulled away. She turned and looked directly into my eyes. Around us, the world was collapsing. My father's empire, the prison that had held us captive for so many years, was burning to the ground. The steel chains of our past were melting in the fire. "Why, Elric?" she shouted over the wail of the sirens. Her eyes burned with desperate intensity. "So we can run into another cage? So we can spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders? Your brother abandoned me. Your family is going to burn here. It's over." I grabbed both of her shoulders. Behind us, someone was already battering down the office door. "We are not dying for their sins. I'm getting you out of here. I swear it." She looked at me. The water pouring from the sprinklers washed away her flawless makeup. And for the first time in 7 unbearable years, I saw the 16-year-old girl from that little country clinic again. For the first time since everything had been destroyed. The corners of her lips trembled. A faint smile appeared. Small, fragile, but completely genuine. "If we die here, Elric," she whispered, resting her forehead against my chest, then at least we'll die free." I still don't know how we survived that night. Maybe every year I spent fighting in underground clubs and surviving in the shadows had been preparing me for those final 30 minutes. When the backup generators exploded behind us, I carried Rhea through a smoke-filled maintenance elevator shaft that not even my brother's personal security team knew existed. By the time we reached the underground parking garage, tactical units were already flooding the building. My older brother, Garrick, never made it to the border. His private helicopter was intercepted mid-flight by the very syndicate he had tried to betray. He died in the flames of his own greed, losing both his fortune and his life within minutes. With him, the entire Valorian Holdings empire collapsed into ashes. The financial crimes my father had buried for decades finally came to light. The company's stock became worthless. Its assets were seized by the government. As far as the world knows, Elric Valorian, the younger son, and Rhea, the chairman's fiancée, died in the fire on the 80th floor. We let the world believe it. Long before everything fell apart, I had prepared clean identities under different names. They were the only things I managed to take from that building before it became an inferno. Now, we're very far away from all of it. Before us stretch endless open valleys where no one knows our past, where the name Valorian is nothing more than a forgotten headline from old crime reports. We live in a small house by the ocean. There are no armored windows, no surveillance cameras, no fake smiles, nothing left to fight over, no one left to hide from. Did we completely break the chains of our past? If I'm being honest with you, Reddit, no. The demons we tried to leave behind in that burning skyscraper still follow us. Ria still wakes in the middle of the night, screaming through panic attacks after dreaming about men in black suits carrying suppressed pistols. And I still see the same frightened 17-year-old boy every time I look into a mirror. The coward whose escape destroyed the only family that had ever shown him mercy. But there's one enormous difference now. We no longer run from each other. We don't hide behind marble masks anymore. What we have isn't some perfect love story you'd see on social media. It's something much harder. A long, slow, sometimes unbearably painful journey of healing two shattered souls. Maybe that's what this story has really been about all along. Fate can hand us the cruelest debts imaginable. It can force us to face nightmares no one should ever have to survive. But the chains of the past hold us only as long as we allow them to. No amount of money, no revenge, no escape can ever restore what has already been lost. Only forgiveness forgiving someone else, and hardest of all, forgiving yourself, can finally break those chains and set you free. This morning I watched Ria standing on our porch with her face turned toward the warm ocean breeze. There were no diamonds, no silk gowns, just an old t-shirt. Yet, for the first time in years, her eyes were alive. She turned toward me. She looked at the scars covering my hands, then at the faded marks on her wrists, and quietly said, "You'll never change the past, Elric. You can't erase it. But look at the sky. It's sunny today, our first real day." And in that moment, I realized we'd finally won. We were free. Thank you for listening to my confession, Reddit. Writing all of this down has made the weight a little easier to carry. But tell me honestly, what would you have done if you were in my place? Could you keep living knowing that someone else paid such a terrible price for your freedom? And do you believe a heart can ever truly heal after surviving a hell like this?